Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the chart of Kanye West. He's been in the news a lot, and I made a video about, in fact, two videos in response to his going DEFCON 3 on the Jews. And despite all that, like I still like Kanye West, and so I just want to make that clear. Or Ye, I guess he doesn't like people calling him Kanye West. He likes Ye, that's his official name. And I wanted to take another look at his astrology chart in relationship to all the things that's going on with him, why he is the way he is, and what his future holds, and also the court case. In any case, let me share my screen. He's being sued by the family of George Floyd for saying that the cops didn't kill him. Fentanyl did, and it's in the police report. And I know that. I mean, the media just picks and chooses stories based on their agenda. And by the way, even though, I mean, not to dwell on the Jewish point again, but even though there's a large representative of the Jews in media, it's not the Jewish media because there's no Jewish element. It's not like the Jews are like, again, it's not like there's a monolith, like all Jews agree about this or that or the other. They just happen to be Jewish. So it's not the Jewish media. It's just the media. And a lot of them happen to be Jews, but not all of them. Not all of them. The CEO of Google is Indian. He's not Jewish. And he still follows the same ridiculous agenda. Bill Gates is not Jewish. He still follows we could go on, I could go on and on. It's like kind of cherry picking when you put it all on the Jews. Any case, it's not about the Jews. All right. Kanye West, he's actually, and maybe the reason that I feel I don't know, interested in what Kanye West says and does, because he's similar to me, in fact. And here's why. My son, he's born June 8th, 77. I was born June 5th, 76. So we could have a lot of similarities. I'm a Gemini sun as well. And my Mercury is like 1 degree away from his. So there. In any case. He's got Sun conjunct Jupiter in Gemini. All right. It's in the 12th house. 12th house is a house of creativity. A lot of people in astrology lament the 12th house, but I think it's just mostly because, well, I mean, I think the 12th house can be difficult, but it's excellent for creativity because on one hand, the polarity is like this. It's like, on the one hand, there can be total loss, total dissolution in the 12th house, or Pisces, or Neptune, right? And he does have Neptune opposite Jupiter, especially, but also the sun. But also there can be like this kind of spiritual, almost re-emergence, almost like a alter ego, I like to say. And that's where the creativity comes from. That's why you have a lot of actors, musicians, artists, even politicians in the 12th house, because politics often is just a big act. You know, we know that. Like, they're just actors lying a lot of times, not always. But so yeah, even politicians, you see that. But there's so much creativity, so much alter ego-ness in the 12th house. It's really like the imagination of the self. That's why the 12th house has that. It's like the loss of the self and the imagination of the self at the same time. So that's something that, you know, 12th housers can benefit from and lean into. And the Sun conjunct Jupiter creates this huge expansion. What's interesting is that Bryson Gray, a rap artist, made a song about Alex Jones and Kanye West. What do they have in common? Wait for it. Sun conjunct Jupiter. Alex Jones, Sun conjunct Jupiter in Aquarius. Ye is Sun conjunct Jupiter in Gemini. It creates a huge expansion of personality. There's one other person I can think, actually two, who have this. It's that the televangelist, the billionaire Joel Osteen. He's got Sun conjunct Jupiter as well. And again, that huge expansion of personality. Also my son. My son has it, and I can't wait to see. He has it in Aquarius, so I can't wait to see what he turns out to be like. Whether Alex Jones, maybe, or probably not, but something different. But in any case, so yeah, he's got the Sun conjunct Jupiter, and that's the expansion of the personality. That's one of the reasons why he's so overblown, so exaggerated, so over the top with everything. Like, and it's not a negative, right? That's probably what made him a billion. I heard 2 billion, but then I just saw an interview where he's like 8 billion. I don't. He's got a lot of money, so he's got a lot of money. What can you say? And that's the expansion of that personality in Gemini. And Jupiter in Gemini obviously does not do very well. It's opposite its rulership in Sagittarius, so it's in detriment, right? And so he's going to have he's going to display a somewhat negative side of Jupiter, which tends to be obviously less religious, less philosophical, although philosophy tends to be more about the small things, small, like intellect, because Jupiter rules big mind, Mercury and Gemini rule the intellect, the smaller mind, right? So he's going to have a big view about small things, right? So this probably makes him excellent at what he does, which is, music and rap, because he'll be able to see the big picture about that whole thing, right? And he'll be able to be like a real, have a bird's eye view of the whole rap music industry and really how to do it the best. So that's like the benefit of Jupiter and Gemini. The negative would be the overexpansion, the exaggeration, overblown, over the top, just mouthy to the nth degree, and just and not to mention, we can't talk about that without talking about Neptune, which is opposite. Same time, a year later, I also have Sun opposite Neptune and Venus, Sun conjunct Venus opposite Neptune. So that's what I have. And it creates a lot of delusional, I can't tell you how many times I thought something was like the way I thought something was this way, and I was just wrong. I just oh, one of those things where I'm just it's a mirage. That's what happens when you have Neptune opposite your Sun or any prominent planet. It creates delusion. It creates delusional relationships as well. You get into relationships and then you're like, what the heck was I thinking? That's not at all what I want or need. Or also drugs and alcohol in relationships. It creates a tendency towards drugs and alcohol. Obviously, Neptune always does. So all those things. It also it can attract people who will lie and deceive you, take advantage of you. That's happened to me so many times. But it is another creative aspect. So this is heightening his creativity again, opposite Neptune, because it's still bringing in the Neptunian. He has a double. He's actually got triple because the moon here and the Cancer ascendant. Anyway, I'll get to that. But highly creative, highly creative, right? Yeah. So no doubt, Ye is. Obviously, he's legit. He's the real deal. He's not faking it. It's he is an artist, and he's very creative, very imaginative. Problem is, he suffers from over exaggeration, which Gemini does in general. That's the thing about Gemini. Gemini rules the expression, and in order to satisfy the need to express, we exaggerate. And people often say Geminis lie. We don't lie, because lying is a choice. You have to decide to be a liar. But what Geminis do is exaggerate and change our minds very, very quickly, right? That's something that throws people off. People have generally, besides Gemini, Sagittarius, maybe other mutables, sure, but in general, people do not have the ability to change their mind the way a Gemini changes their mind. And other people will say, you said this, now you're saying that you lied. To Gemini, it's not lying. It's just the way they are. It's just the ability to change, and it's not even the ability. It's that it happens. It happens beyond our control. Our minds change a lot, especially when you have stuff like Sun opposite Neptune and Sagittarius, Sun conjunct Jupiter. That's gonna overly he's way over the top. He's overly confident. He's you hear him speak. He's just wow. It's kind of entertaining. It's he's in La La Land about how overly confident he is, but it's at the same time it's entertaining, and it's kind of well, can he pull off all these grand things? He's I'll be president one day. I would never say that, personally, like, but I'm also not a billionaire. In any case, like, he's super duper confident. That's like, Sun conjunct Jupiter, opposite Neptune, and then Pisces moon. Might as well talk about that next. Moon is his ascendant lord, Cancer ascendant, trine the moon in Pisces. So that's ninth house. And it's in really good aspect to the ascendant, and it's in creative, imaginative Pisces. So he's got like an overload of imagination. Moon is square Sun and Jupiter, and square Neptune. So it's got a big T square here. So there's some conflict here, but it's a very creative T square, because 12th house, Pisces, Neptune in Sag. Neptune in Sag, no less, right? By the way, I forgot to mention Neptune is in the 6th house. So that is going to create some conflict for him, because 6th house is the house of conflict, because it's Neptune is also has some difficult aspects here, opposite Sun and Jupiter, and square the moon. So it's going to be a bit delusional. He's going to get, he's going to have conflicts that are somehow people taking advantage of him, lying, deceiving, but also him like exaggerating too much. Like the whole George Floyd thing, Gemini's always get in trouble by saying too much, saying the wrong things, exaggerating, things like that. And that's going to bring conflict on him. It can also create 6th house, can create health issues. Neptune obviously is much more, in the mental realms. So this can be delusional, right? And we've seen this, like, where people will try and influence him. Obviously, maybe they think it's for the best, but it might not be for the best, especially with knowing that this is opposite the Sun and Jupiter. But like, he's always like, people trying to control me. That's this opposition where people, he's not going to be very clear about it, because it's Neptune and Sag. This is not a very firm position, but it's conflictual at the same time. So it's like, he's going to keep meeting people who are like, he's not sure about, like, he'll trust them, and then he won't trust them. And then some people he should trust, he won't trust. And then other people he shouldn't trust, he will trust. And kind of like that until, he's going to be on not very firm footing, so to speak, right? He's going to be wobbly and slightly delusional, in fact. His analytical mind is not great, although he is still a Gemini. So it's a mixture. And also the Taurus is very firm foundational thinking, right? Which I'll get to more. But this moon is in the 9th house. So this is, people are like, they don't want to believe that he's religious or, has a relationship with God. But seeing this Pisces moon in the 9th house, I'd say, yeah, definitely. Like, that's real. That's legit. Like, he does have a relationship with God. He does believe in God. Even though Jupiter's in Gemini, so it can like go back and forth, and it's square the moon, and like sometimes he's like, at odds with his own relationship with God, with religion, with philosophy, because of the square. It's still there. It's two parts of himself that don't always get along, that don't always, at times he can be more, leaning on this side of things, which is less religious, because Jupiter in Gemini is not religious, and then Moon in Pisces, which is more creative and more spiritual, more religious. In any case, so like that. Obviously, like he says, his latest inspiration comes from calling from God. So that's that's there. And again, heightened creativity, right? So he's got a south node in Aries, and I left Eris in here. Eris is a minor planet. It's very far out there. I think Eris is trans Pluto, is beyond Pluto, but it completes this grand trine. So I thought I'd leave it in here, this fire trine, right? And it's also conjunct the south node. So Eris is probably influencing him quite a bit. Conjunct the south node, and so prominent, high in the sky. in the 10th house, and then part of this grand fire trine. He's got Venus and Mars in Taurus conjunct, and that's obviously, well, not obviously for some people, obviously for anyone who knows astrology well enough, that this is, a sign of an artist, again, because Venus is in domicile in Taurus, so beauty, like Venus is very, if you look at the scoring here, Venus gets extra points, 14, not only because it's in rulership and angular, well, it doesn't calculate angles, but actually it's in triplicity in term, but also mutual reception by exaltation with the moon, right? Moon is exalted in Taurus and Venus is exalted in Pisces. So it's bringing that element, not by degree, degrees are off, but still there's some relational exchange there. But Mars and Venus together are very, very passionate, because now you're bringing the male and female yin and yang sides together. Mars being the male aggression, which doesn't do so well in Taurus, but it gains a lot of strength with Venus and Taurus. Venus in Taurus is obviously leading the way. And you do see this often with artists and musicians a lot. Venus and Mercury, Venus and Mars, things like that. Yeah. So this is very strong. It's very prominent. It's in the 10th house, 11th whole sign house, but that's still, still okay. It's 10th, 11th. 11th would be like, popularity, niche sort of popularity groups, networks, things of that nature. It's also conjunct Chiron, which gives him a different, he's going to be unique. Definitely. He's going to be different. He's going to be an oddball. He's going to be Kanye. And or Ye. This Chiron is, there is a wide opposition to Uranus, which will give a negative, if there's bad aspects to Chiron, it becomes painful, right? Because Chiron's the wounded healer, the wounded reject, the pain, very deep pains can come from Chiron, especially with difficult aspects. So that's there. There is something uneasy about Ye, which we can feel, right? There's some wounds there, some pain, some discomfort, some grudge. And that's also Mars and Taurus. Mars and Taurus is a fighter because it's so it's like, imagine a soldier wading through the mud. That's almost like Mars and Taurus. He's frustrated, he's angry, he's annoyed, he's like, Narr. A lot of times you get fighters with Mars and Taurus. Again, Alex Jones and another one, Muhammad Ali, right? Because of that friction. We have Mars and Taurus, right? No, we don't. Sorry. We have Uranus and Taurus. We did have Mars and Taurus. We have Mars and Gemini now. But yeah, Mars and Taurus creates a lot of friction and heat. And it's like that deep seething anger. And either Mars and Taurus can go one of two ways. Mars and Taurus can avoid confrontation altogether. Sometimes you'll see that they just avoid it because they want to keep up appearances, because Mars and Taurus, when they fight, it's quite aggressive. It's quite strong because of that anger, that heat, that friction. It's really aggressive when Mars and Taurus. When they get angry, because Taurus is like that thing, that energy that doesn't like to move, doesn't like to get heated, but when it gets heated, it really holds that heat. So Mars and Taurus can really fight when it gets to that level. Right? So it's helped by Venus here. It's not going to be like a raw Mars and Taurus in the 10th house, and Mars in the 10th house is very, very strong. It's 10th, 11th, but still. Like my Mars is in the 10th house, conjunct the MC in Leo, so that's why I'm always fiery. I gotta stand up and face the demons, the public demons, the demons in the public eye, and that's not all Mars is good for in the 10th house. Mars is great in the 10th house for career, even though my career isn't not good. Anyway, Yay, we're talking about Yay. So this is excellent for his career. South Node is good for early rise, especially South Node in Aries. So that's early rise into career. right? North node, as long as we're talking about this, and he's already past 42. He's your younger, so he's 45. So he's well into, he's just starting out he's getting comfortable with his North Node in Libra, which is much more relationship oriented. Fourth house is going to be much more about possessions, like brick and mortar. Like he might become more into real estate, buying houses. He probably already has a bunch of real estate, so I don't imagine that. But it could be potentially like brick and mortar type stuff. Buying physical things, using his money to buy. Obviously, he just bought or is trying to buy parlor. Maybe it went through, I don't know, but politics. Fourth house is also politics because homeland, right? So Libra is also about fairness and balance and equality and peace and relationships and business partnerships in the market and things of that nature. There's a wide conjunction to Pluto. So Pluto's retrograde. So this will indicate something. And Pluto actually, it definitely has a oh no, it's a left. Sorry, I was looking at it. There's a strong sesquisquare to Mercury, so that there's a difficult aspect here with Pluto. So there's some destructiveness as well, especially relating to speech and communication. This is more going to influence Mercury negatively, but it'll bring out a worse aspect of Pluto. But and that could get him into trouble, especially with Neptune here in the 6th house. Neptune indicates loss, so like lawsuits, I don't think it's going to be that great for him, right? Neptune has some definite negative aspects, and being a Gemini, Mercury in Taurus is very stubborn, plus it's conjunct Algol. It's 1 degree from my Mercury, so it's like very, I know what Mercury in Taurus is, especially conjunct Algol is like. It's like, especially being a Gemini, it's like, well, it's like me. But he's going to say things and he's going to be very stubborn about it. He's not going to want to back down, and he's just going to put his foot down and put his foot in his mouth probably as well. And being a Gemini, and get himself into trouble. It's going to have this destructive element with Pluto, sesquisquare Mercury here, and defending the homeland. The homeland can mean, 4th house can mean multiple things. Obviously, early childhood, the home, real estate, brick and mortar buildings. Like you can see like restaurants here, like empire type building. Building an empire, because it's like you're building your home base, your homeland, your territory, your turf. That's why he's like, that's why he said that thing about turf wars, because he's obsessed with turf, like home, right? Land, right? He could become a farmer. I doubt it, but that is a possibility. More likely, politics, defending the homeland. Also, this would also indicate what he feels to be his people, even like, which I guess Black people, right? I mean, it would be better if he thought all people were his people, and I don't think he doesn't think that, but he probably, he ideally should think that, because we're all the human race and we all need to, stick together for each other. But this could also be, like the black community, right? Standing up for the Black community, fighting for the Black community. And I think he is. He's just not doing it in the way that the conventional status quo, right? He's being unique. He's being independent. He's doing what he thinks is best. And I actually agree with him about pretty much most of the things he says, because, the Democrat Party, unfortunately, does not, they just use, it's all talking points, and they do not have the best interests of Black people or any people in mind, except for themselves. They're really out for themselves. They're not out to help anyone. So they do not want what's best for Black people, but I believe that he does. And that's generally, you can see with 4th house, that's going to be the person who fights for the homeland, the home turf, home people, right? Things like that. Pluto also will make it very obsessive in that regard, right? Very deep. And you know, Pluto retrograde is going to be a very deep negation, like deep turning away from the crowd or what's popular or the status quo. It's a very deep, kind of almost spiritual going against the grain, because Pluto is so deep. Difficulty in relationships, also Pluto in Libra. People always turn to relationships first with Libra, but I don't even think, like, that's not necessarily the most significant thing of Libra, because, well, it is for some people, but it's very small, you know. It depends on your orientation. If you're a worldly type person, you're thinking about the whole world, your personal relationships are not necessarily the first thing that you want to think, that you would think about with Libra, right? Because you're thinking about the whole world, so you're not thinking about, like, my girlfriend, blah blah blah. That's kind of selfish. It's small-minded. Anyway, it's amazing that he has Saturn in Leo, because Saturn in Leo, I have Saturn in Leo. It's not a great combination, and he has in the second house, right? So why is he a billionaire? Why is he like like, okay, let's say he has, like, I don't know how many, like, a lot of billions, like 8 billion, 10 billion, I don't know, whatever billions. Who cares at this point, right? How does he have it with Saturn in Leo when it's not, you know, is opposite Aquarius, which it's the rulership, so it's in detriment. How's he billionaire? Well, I mean, one thing, Sun is Sun's conjunct Jupiter, so ruler of the second house is conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter is not in good dignity, but it's still Jupiter, right? And 11th house ruler, that's the other place to look for wealth. Venus in excellent dignity here, right? So you know, 10th and 11th, the energy here is very full, very prosperous, right? There's a lot of strong energy with South Node, Mars, Venus. I don't know that Eris is going to do much here. Moon, it's going to flow. You know, in any case, this 11th house is very strong. Right? He's also got a Mercury here. That's probably okay. Mercury's not great in Taurus, and it's behind the sun. So it's not a great aspect to the sun, but still, in any case, you know, you have that and that. So, and Saturn obviously is not enough to keep it down. I mean, and it's part of this grand trine, and I think that helps as well. It's not like a super strong grand trine because it's Eris, and Eris is pretty far out there, but it's still there. In any case, let's see what else. Yeah, Jupiter's ruling the 9th house and the 6th house, so he's bringing a lot of conflict to himself. I mean, conflict is always going to follow him wherever he goes, and but also he's, you know, religious, spiritual, philosophical, and let's see what else. Mercury is ruling the 3rd house and the 12th house, so very creative expression here in Taurus. And Taurus obviously is a very beautiful and creative sign. I didn't even touch on Uranus. Uranus is not really making many aspects. I said opposite Chiron, but it's in the 5th house of creativity. So, you know, obviously it's going to add a lot of uniqueness and kind of like a shocking element to his creative pursuits because of the 5th house element. This would also influence his children. His children will be very unique, very independent and dynamic and shocking shocking in some way. Shocked, you know, I don't know. There could be shocking things around, at least in his relationship to his children. Okay. The most significant thing is this North Node in Libra in the fourth house. That yay will move more into fourth house things and away from 10th house things, meaning that politics, not necessarily away, because Venus rules Libra, and Venus is in the 10th house quadrant, 11th whole sign house. So, you know, public, you know, being in the limelight and remaining popular, that's both still indicated by this North Node in Libra. But politics, I see definitely, because he's hinted at that, right? There's been talk of, I think some people have said they would like to see Ye as a running mate with Donald Trump, because he said he likes Donald Trump. And he's made, you know, he's said himself in the Tucker interview that he's going to be president one day. So obviously he's thinking about it, right? Whether he is or not, I don't know. I'm not going to make that prediction. But actually, I think he could do quite well if he wanted to. So there's a good chance. The problem is his delusions. He's not the most analytical thinker. He's not the most, you know, and I called him out on a few things that were off base. I don't, you know, it's understandable when you look at his astrology, but at the same time, he has to be responsible. Like, he's almost like too big to care about his mistakes, and that I think is a mistake. You know, he needs to hold himself accountable for being accurate, especially if he wants to step into politics. That he's going to get called out a lot more if he's making, you know, these grievous errors and tromping all over people, and they're, you know, you can't do that. You can't go DEFCON 3 on any group. That's not right. And you can't make false claims about the people in any group, because you will get called out. So let's take a look at his draconic chart for a moment. Okay, Moon in Leo in the second house. That's not at all surprising to see. He's a rapper, right? And then again, we get the second house Lord, which is Sun conjunct Jupiter in Gemini, right? So that, again, for speaking, for rapping, communication, things like that, very prominent. And then Moon in the second house in Leo, right? Moon in Leo is so proud, right? That you just can't. It's like an inner thing. Their pride is you know, held behind their sun, which is also a sign of pride and ego. But Leo moons are just extremely proud. Right? They have this undaunting brightness internally, undaunting, like dauntless flame, internal flame. Sorry. Mars and Venus again, and Venus and domicile in Libra here in the fourth house, right? So, and this conjunct Pluto. So very powerful, and Chiron's exactly conjunct Pluto. Oh, that's difficult, right? That shows, you know, potentially difficult childhood even, right? I don't know anything about his childhood, but there could have been some strong, deeply painful issues about his early childhood development. But this also can indicate that his political, his politics, his insecurities, his beliefs about his what, you know, like he said, turf war, which I don't like, right? There's no real turf war. He's making that up. He's creating that. That's like this delusional conflict that he has. He's creating this war with the Jews that doesn't exist. I mean, it's not. He might disagree with certain people who happen to be Jewish. That's not a turf war with the Jews. You just disagree with certain people who happen to be Jewish. Good. I disagree with them too. It's not a turf war with the Jews. Right? In any case. Yeah, so his stance could be very like painfully motivated, especially with this Mars Venus. So Venus is very sensitive. Mars and Venus can be okay, but if Venus further receives damage here by Chiron and then Pluto, this Venus, it's in good dignity here, and so it's standing up, but there's still pain, and probably this Chiron's the most badly damaged, being conjunct Mars and the natal, the overlay of the draconic on the natal chart here. Mercury, a little bit widely conjunct Uranus in Scorpio. So that's actually a brilliant aspect, because Mercury and Uranus together creates a very brilliant mind. Mercury being the intellect, Uranus being the I'm not going to say higher octave. I know people love to say that, but these planets are their own, belong to themselves. They're not octaves of each other. That's just, we need to get rid of that. Uranus is the great awakener. It's brilliant insights. It's innovation, independence, flashes of lightning. So this is a very, very brilliant kind of combination, especially in Scorpio, where Uranus really does well. More fifth house activation here with Sun conjunct Jupiter in Scorpio, mainly because it's in the fifth house, but it's trying the ascendant, and I don't see Kanye as being very scorpionic, but you won't see the Scorpio influence with the draconic, but he'll feel it, so it'll be very subtle, but it's still fifth house, so it's still prominent. Saturn in excellent dignity here, right conjunct the descendant, in domicile in Capricorn, so that's excellent. I mean, again, it's draconic, not taking it too heavily. The weight is much, it's more subtle again, but still, and Saturn does do well in the seventh house, so that's another, just it creates good relationships, good, stable, strong relationships. And his relationship with Kim Kardashian is obviously over, so yeah, but just in general, this also relates to how, his relationship to the public, so that's quite good. Ascendant in the sixth house, adding more conflict, but sixth house is also good for the arts, because it creates great editorial ability. A lot of artists have sixth house planets, so it's not like a terrible thing, because then they can create, and then they can go back and like rearrange and edit and cut and paste and all that, right? But fighting, competition, that sort of thing. Pluto moon in Pisces, so deep, I mean, that's going to create a destructive element for his, also to, his mental, moon in Pisces is not the most mentally stable combination. And neither is, Neptune and Sag in the sixth house, opposite Sun and Jupiter, right? In the T-square, all in the T-square. So mentally, he is a little, like, he needs to be careful of his mental health. Moon and Pluto can be very destructive, deeply destructive. Karen Carpenter had that natally. He has it just, fortunately, it's not natally, it's just on the draconic, but it's still going to have a bit of influence. It's still going to have a subtle influence, making his mind more destructive, leaning towards that side of things. And being in the ninth house, that'll also create can create pretty extreme type of religious philosophical beliefs. Things that he believes in can go to the far out region. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? It can get very extreme, in other words, extreme, dark, and destructive. Uranus in Aries in the 10th house, very prominent here. Draconic, of course, so again, subtle, but still, Uranus in Aries will be very sparky and inspirational and dynamic and unique and exciting, especially in the 10th house. This will be very public. It just creates, that edge, that creative, dynamic, creative in the sense that it's just new, and Uranus also has to do with rhythm, beats, because now, right? Like, so, Uranus can be very musical and innovative, genius even at times. So everyone has a Uranus, and not everyone's a genius. So Uranus does not always represent genius, wherever it is, but it can represent, depending on how it's aspected, just that dynamic independence, lightning kind of thing. Neptune above Mercury here, 5 degrees in Taurus, 11th house. So again, adding a lot of creativity to the Mercury, to the intellect, to the expression, right? So that's quite prominent as well. Okay. I'm not going to do the nodes because I don't know. It's just a little drawn out. That's basically it for yay. Yeah, so I like yay. I just wish he would do a little more forethought before he, made enemies of everyone. No, he's not making enemies of everyone. Obviously, he's got a lot of supporters, and he's not making an enemy of me either. But he does say things that are annoying and insulting and inaccurate. They're just wrong sometimes. So I wish he would think more before he goes on his tirades and creates problems for himself, because he's going to create issues for himself. 6th house, enemies. Okay. That's yay revisited with the current events. And guys, don't forget to hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, share if you want to, leave a comment if you like, book a reading with me, macroastrology.com, that's my website, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com, that's my email. You can just email me directly if you want, and I will see you again soon. Thanks, bye.